Cora stole a sweeping glance around the room, her gaze a rake through silt, picking up details that she would clean off and examine later in the quiet of her room. How epic is that line, you guys? Today I thought it would be fun to talk about a book that I recently finished called Enchanted by Emily Bain Murphy. This book was definitely 5 stars for me, and so I thought it would be fun to just do a deep dive into what I liked about it. So I don't read a ton of historical fiction, but I'm starting to a bit more this year, and this is one that really piqued my interest. First of all, it's set in the 1940s, which is awesome for a gal like me who loves black and white movies. If you love black and white movies, let me know below which ones are your favorites. I'm definitely a girl who loves the Thin Man series. That is a mystery series in black and white. So many different movies that I just love from that era. That's kind of like the vibes here. And so this one follows a girl named Cora, who is an aspiring PI. She's grown up her whole life on an island that houses a prison called Pelican Island. And she has had a deep, dark secret that she's been keeping in her past that she's very afraid will get out. And she's just been trying to make a life for herself, taking on investigating jobs. And so she gets a job where she has to go and investigate and take pictures for something. I won't give away too many spoilers. At this glittering, glamorous estate dubbed Enchanted Hill. It is run by the incredibly powerful Truman Bird. Cora is going about her job thinking that she's getting close to finding answers for her client when out of the blue she sees an individual that she thought she wouldn't see ever again. His name is Jack, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but the last time they saw each other, everything ended in disaster and resulted in the dark secret that she's had to keep from her father ever since. And the book is also told from his perspective as well in different parts. This book is multiple POV, it jumps into the heads of lots of different characters, but nothing feels disjointed, everything flows very beautifully from one person to the next. The transitions are really nice, and Emily Bain Murphy is just an absolutely excellent writer. I was blown away by certain lines in this book that I highlighted. As you can see, I have a ton of little tabs here. I annotated the heck out of this book, and this was actually my first time doing that with a book that is fiction. And so that was a lot of fun. I felt like I got some deeper insights into writing craft and some really good just like ideas and inspiration. But I absolutely loved the setting. Emily's imagery is just lush. It's funny, with these tabs, I put an orange or pink tab for anything that I really loved, whether it was really good writing in my opinion or just something that made me feel happy or hopeful or was a part of the theme that I really enjoyed. I'm going to share just a few quotes that I really thoroughly enjoyed. She'd never seen such flagrant, unapologetic opulence before. The lush fabric of Miss Bird's dress whispered its own language whenever she moved. This is a quote that kind of gives you an inkling to some of the themes. It's talking about Truman Bird, who has run the nation's perceptions of things through this newspaper. The nation's perceptions were shifted day by his stories, depending on what quotes were used or omitted, which page number a story appeared on, what size font its headline was given. Truman Bird was elbow deep in crafting and manipulating reality itself, and that was just the way he wanted it. There are also some really sweet recollections that the characters have about interactions with faith, church, Christianity, just these hints of the hope that might still be to come. There's a quote about Cora's mother walking through the prison praying for the prisoners. There had been a lightness about Alice McCavanagh as she walked through life, casting blessings the way most people threw stones, even at those who talked down to her, who cut her in line for the tram or tried to cheat her at the market. She would walk the craggy island on Pelican, the wind sweeping her hair, and Cora knew she was praying for the prisoners because of the way her cracked lips moved with silent words. And the best quote of all, this was my favorite quote in the entire book. It was so refreshing. Like, Jack, the love interest in the story, he's been through some really bad experiences. Getting sent to prison, not great. Escaping prison, not great. He has sorrows in his life. and things to reckon with, but this man ultimately is a gentleman. He often will stick up for women, protect women, stand up against men that are bullying women or treating them disrespectfully. And he's reflecting on some of the men that he's encountered so far at Enchanted Hill. And so he has this beautiful quote. His father had raised him to give a woman flowers, to take his hat off in her presence and carry her luggage up the stairs, that your wife could be the best friend you ever had. Men like Albert, like Truman, didn't even know what they had. They could be truly known by someone else, and they refused it. Jack yearned for what they threw away like scraps. For 13 years, he hadn't let anyone get too close. Not because he didn't want to, but because it wouldn't have been fair. And I was just taken by that quote, that men like that they could be truly known by someone else, and yet they threw that away like scraps. But Jack, he longed to have a wife that could be the best friend you ever had. It's such a gorgeous idea that marriage is really the linking of best friends, and there's beauty to be had there that these other men just pass over. And not Jack. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want to pass over it. He's looking for that best friend. And so it's just, so romantic. And the mystery is so good. I don't want to give away too much, but if you love historical fiction, if you love mystery and romance, this is the book for you. Please check it out if it even just piqued your interest here today. I found this story to be one that is definitely about second chances. What is freedom to you? Kind of like slavery and freedom. Like Jack has been put in prison, but he is more free in many ways than Truman Bird, who has this glorious grand estate, and yet he is a prisoner. He is enslaved to this desperate need and this hole that he cannot fill. He cannot fill with enough women and money and luxuries. This wound that you'll read about. I don't want to spoil too much, but the characters have these wounds, which is good in a book because it makes for great characters and great character arcs. But yeah, everybody has a wound, but the way that they deal with those wounds, how they choose to be in the world after being mistreated, it's almost like that verse that talks about let no one repay evil for evil, but overcome evil with good. And it's like there is massive evil that has been done to many of these characters. Some of the characters choose to repay that by taking revenge and kind of taking things into their own hands. And then other characters are trying to, in what way they can, whether imperfectly or not, they're trying to make things right again. So I found that to be fascinating and very refreshing. Content-wise, it is definitely an adult book that deals with dark, heavy adult topics, done with great tact, I would say. Just trigger warnings for people. There is infidelity in the book. I hate books. I will not read a book if it has an affair, typically, or infidelity of any kind. Like I cannot handle that. It is just not something that I like to read about at all. But you know what's interesting? I felt like it was handled very tastefully in this book. It was in no way glorified, and it wasn't like hating on the characters involved in it either. It was kind of just highlighting like the brokenness of all these characters and the love and affection and faithfulness that they all desperately need. And it was so evident that these characters just needed light and hope in their lives, but it was definitely a message about like, hey, that's still possible for you, kind of a thing. Again, hope, a big theme here in the book, I would say. There are some scenes that imply like something inappropriate is happening or is about to happen, but it is ultimately closed door. It is off camera, if you will. Again, I did think it was handled with a lot of tact and grace, but if that is something that's too much for you, come at this with your own discretion. I believe there are 1 or 2 curse words in the book. Again, not glorified in any way, not throwing it around like it's cool or just because. Like in the context of the characters' lives, who they are, where they're at on this journey, it makes sense that they would say something like that, especially considering what happens to the character when it is uttered. It makes sense. I just feel like the book is historically accurate and just tells such a beautiful story about second chances and hope. I really highly recommend it. I had the pleasure of actually getting to meet Emily Bain Murphy at the Realm Makers Writers Conference last year. She was lovely to meet, and I would love to chat with her more about this book. I actually did a buddy read for this book with my friend E.C. Bowman. I'll refer to her as because that's how she appears online on her Instagram. Check out E.C. Bowman. I will leave the link to her account on Instagram as well as to Emily's account where you can check out more of her works. This is not the first book that she's written. I'm told her other books are just as wonderful, and I definitely want to check them out. So I hope that you guys enjoyed learning a little bit about Enchanted Hill. I would love to know, what are you currently reading? Drop the name of the book that you're loving in the comments or not loving in the comments below. I would love to check it out. And until next time, I will see you in the next video.